Because I remember my friend who first gave it to me saying, you can see the exit light, run for it. And I was like, you have no idea how much I don't see an exit line right now. Yeah.
That was Dayna Keys. I'm Jeff. Welcome to Storied San Francisco, a weekly podcast where San Franciscans from all walks of life share their stories, and you get to know your neighbors. Just a quick note. Dayna shares several stories in this episode that could be triggering. Please be advised. In this podcast, Dayna recounts the roller coaster story of her drug addiction. Once, between bouts and stays in rehab, she got a broadcasting degree. Later, she found work as a DJ at various stations around the Bay Area. After many more cycles of addiction and rehab, she emerged sober and started Radio Rehab, a podcast that has been running for more than 4 years now. Here's Dayna.
But so I came up here and started doing theater in Marin. I was doing stuff at College of Marin. I was having fun. I met a lot of great people. And that slowly turned into me coming into San Francisco every night, getting a fake ID and partying. And then that turned into me going back down to LA every weekend. And by that point, it was like my friend came from the East Coast and she brought a bunch of cocaine.
Okay.
And we did a whole lot of it to the point where I was just like, I felt so just jacked, and we drove down to LA. We're drinking Zimas the whole way down. Hey, 90s. Okay. And, we got down and they were all like snorting more stuff. My friends from college when I got there. And I was like, give me some. And they were like, no, you don't want any of this. I'm like, that's exactly what you say to me if you want me to do it. Okay. Because now you're giving me some.
Yep. The old taboo trick.
And everybody's like, no, dude, it's heroin. And I'm like, but it's white powder. And they're like, yeah, it's China white. And I'm like I said, give me some. That was the worst thing I've ever done. That was the worst experience of my life. I mean, it was a great experience, but the worst idea I've ever had.
That's how I've always felt about heroin. Like, I'm sure it's a lot of fun.
Oh my God.
But that's the end of your life.
Yes, I want, if I could just put my experience in kids' brains, there would be no opiate pandemic. There would be nothing. There'd be no, if they could just see, oh, you think you're going to be different than me? And I realized at that moment I could never live without it. And it ate the next. Wow. It became a component in my life for almost 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And I started doing it like that, and it was fine. It was very controllable. And then this is when all my friends quit. That guy who was selling us that in LA, because China White's very New York, got arrested. And then then it's a bunch of teenagers going to the projects, not knowing anything about anything and trying to score tar. And, then after a while, smoking tar didn't work. Then I started shooting it, and all my friends stopped at the tar point. Not all of them, but most of them. And I was put in and out of rehabs. My parents did so much to try to save my life, and I wasn't ready. I mean, and that's the sad thing. That's why I wish I could take my experience and put it in some kids' heart and in their mind, because you can't save them once they start. You can't. Yeah. Oh, it's so hard. It's so hard.
And it's so much easier to just
And when you're
use
young, it ruins your whole growing up perspective. Yeah. It's like if you try it when you're 30, you still have memories of being young. Like people who try it now, they're never gonna have a memory of being happy ever.
Right.
It's something that comes with it called anhedonia. And it was just so hard to get off of it. So I was, at this point, I went to a treatment center called Pomero. It's and their whole thing in this, because at this point I think it was my 6th treatment center. So and their tagline is for the reluctant to recover. I know. Really, it's for if you've tried a bunch and it's not working, send them here. It's a 6 to 9 month place in Ramona, which is in San Diego County, literally the middle of nowhere.
Reluctant to recover.
Reluctant to recover.
For those who are hella far down that road.
Yeah, exactly.
It's wait, we can't even see you anymore. Right, come back.
Exactly. Because I remember my friend who first gave it to me saying, you can see the exit light, run for it. And I was like, you have no idea how much I don't see an exit line right now. Yeah. Right. I remember that moment where I might have seen the exit sign, but
something else flashy was over here.
It was like, I was sick, and I knew, I was dope sick, and I knew that if I continued, it would get worse. but just the feeling, that feeling is so awful. The cravings are so awful that I just went, am I going to pick life or am I going to pick this?
So
I chose that.
You had some awareness.
Oh, yeah.
A downwardness.
And I literally, it's like I looked at it, I looked in this fiery furnace of hell, and I went, fuck it. That's how I feel about my addiction.
Yeah.
Is I constantly chose to die all the time. I'm just not a quitter when it comes to bad stuff.
Right.
I mean, I love bad stuff.
Yeah.
I do. I mean, I got into Billie Holiday when I was like 13 years old or 12, and I remember asking my dad all these questions. And that's one thing about my dad is always very honest with me. He was like, she was a heroin addict. Like me. And then I was like, what does that do? And then he told me. And then he told me the whole story about her and how the end, and she was doing it in her eyeballs because she kept getting arrested and they would look for marks and how it killed her. And, it was like, note to self, don't do that. But still, I listened to her music, and whatever this haunting thing was just drawing me into it. I just wanted to go back in time. I always had this back in time thing. I wanted to go back to the 40s. Like, I was really into swing music and jazz and stuff and punk. Those were my sections at Tower Records, jazz and punk, cassettes.
Perfect.
But so anyway, I went to the rehab. I spent 9 months in there. During that my parents took that exact opportunity to get the fuck out of LA. And there was nothing I could do about it.
Okay.
There was nothing I could do about it. I couldn't yell. I couldn't scream. I wasn't there. It wasn't one of those rehabs where you get like your phone and a computer and you get to call people. You don't get phone. You don't talk on the phone ever.
More like jail, kind of.
It was very much like jail. Yes. We had a lot of fun. I didn't take it seriously, honestly.
Okay.
I mean, I did, but it was like, ugh. When do I get out of here? I just want my stuff back. That's why I went to rehab all those times when I was, in my early 20s. I just wanted my stuff back. Wanted my parents to like me again. I wanted to not feel like a pariah, and I wanted my car, and then I wanted to go out with who I want to go out with and just hang. I certainly did not want to work a 12-step program. So my parents moved, and I was they moved up. They moved to Sonoma.
Okay.
They looked at Marin. They looked at a bunch of places. They found some place in Sonoma that was just pure. Sonoma is kind of a magical place. I love Sonoma. Mm-hmm. So they moved up to Sonoma, and I got into that treatment center and was just. I ended up back in another one. It was just, the whole thing was very hard. I felt very orphaned. We're in this town called Ramona. You can't do anything. Like, I'm a creative person.
Right.
The only place we could work, and we were forced to work there after we got out, was Kmart.
Ooh.
I worked at a Super K.
Yikes.
Wore a vest.
Yikes.
But you know what? I managed to have fun there. Because that's me. I try to bring the fun. And people, in retail don't like that, your bosses. I'm like, so I don't work in retail. It's just not my thing. You know what I mean? I'm here to bring the party. Yeah. I'm here to laugh. So I ended up going back, started driving back to LA again, doing my old thing, driving back to LA. At this point, I could cop really easily. So I'm driving back and forth. And, at this point, I had a ton of dealers. And, I had gotten really bad. At this point, I was shooting cocaine with the heroin, which is a speedball. Mm-hmm. And I was smoking crack.
Mostly all down there, or any here? Mostly
well, this is before I got brought up here. So,
okay.
I was, strung out. Yeah. And one of the people from the rehab I was in saw me and called my parents and was like, if you don't come get your daughter, she's going to come home in a body bag. And my dad showed up. And there I am, and every time I would come visit them and come up to Sonoma, I'd be kicking. One time I was in a wheelchair because I'd blown all the veins in my foot out, and I couldn't walk on my foot. And, I was a mess. I have this scar up the right side of my neck where my jugular used to be. That was my favorite vein, and I ruined it. And now I have a reminder of it every time I look in the mirror of the fact that I almost shot up in my face, and I didn't care.
You got close
because
to
the
Billie
drugs
Holiday.
owned me.
Right.
I did. I was just such a slave to that drug. And so my parents took me up here, and I'm like, I'm not living in Sonoma. You don't go from LA to Sonoma. My parents, they were different people. They didn't want to go get the mail because I had to go to the bottom of the driveway. They were so, to me, I'm like, you guys become lame. But no, they became happy. They became very serene, and they loved it. They'd come to the city and have lunch. And, my dad loves San Francisco. It's his town. The Doobie Brothers are San Francisco band. That's their logo. It's like your tattoo. Yeah. The bridge. But so, I started going back and forth, and then finally I found my thing in San Francisco. Which I found the heroin. You know, and I mean, because that's really, it's not like you're exposed to it everywhere. It's some part of me is looking. Mm-hmm. So I found that in San Francisco, and I hit an all new bottom because now I'm homeless. I'm in the Mission.
Is this 2000s now?
This is the 2000s now. Yeah,
okay.
I was in and out of like staying with people, being homeless, dating this guy who lived in Sacramento. I'd go like stay with him. I mean, he was literally a hostage. You know what I mean? Everybody I dated during that time was a hostage.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And a place for me to sleep. So, you know, it just got to the point where I was literally homeless. I had been sexually assaulted. I had blown out all my veins, and I was sleeping on like cardboard under this shopping cart with a blanket under it, with this girl who didn't have a family. I'm looking at myself going, I have people that I'm ruining right now. Like, I'm killing people. I have this beautiful family who loves me, and I'm killing them, and I'm trying to kill myself, and it's not working, because I tried to OD all the time.
Right.
Everybody would, you know, in my mind, when we hear, oh, so-and-so OD, they're gone, my first thought was, lucky them. Because that's what I wanted. I didn't want to be here anymore. I just didn't feel like I belonged.
Because living
sucked.
A slave.
Living was being a slave to a drug. Yeah, it's the thinking, and all it was how do I use? How do I get more? How am I going to get high? How am I not going to be sick? How am I going to get the money? Mm-hmm. You know, what awful stuff am I going to have to do to get money? You know, selling myself on the streets. So there's one day I just went and I called my dad. I made this decision. I said, okay, look, I'll do it. I'll give it a year. And every time my parents' phone rang at this point, they thought it was going to be, hi, this is the cops. Can you come identify your daughter?
Medical examiner, that kind of thing, yeah. But you made that call. You were living in the Mission, homeless.
Yeah, homeless. And I just said, come get me.
Okay.
And my dad came and got me, and he brought me up to Sonoma, and I detoxed. And I found a place, and after all the money we had spent on treatment, which I would really like back now to do good things with, I went to this place called Women's Recovery Association in Burlingame. Okay. Because all the places I looked at in San Francisco, the waiting list was like, I'll be dead. Right. I'll be dead in 3 months. Right. You know what I mean? Like 3 months, I will be dead. Or just wait, so much worse that I'm not going to want to, you know? Mm-hmm. So I got into this place in Burlingame really quickly. I didn't know where Burlingame was, or San Mateo, or, you know, like, I didn't know what was between here and LA, really.
I hear you.
Not that that's anywhere near LA.
I'm still a little unsure, but yeah.
I know, right? Yeah. I know. So I went through that place. I spent a year in there. I did 6 months, and my thing when I went in there was like, okay, I'll give this a year. If it's not awesome, if life isn't rad, I'm going back. And I know when I go back, it'll take me out right away, because my tolerance will have gone back down. I didn't say that to my family, but that was what was happening.
The mentality. Yeah.
So I went into the treatment center, and life got great. I mean, the fact that I did not have any diseases. Because I was going to needle exchanges and stuff, you know, but still, I was with people who, I mean, had everything. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, it just... The fact
it's like
that,
a little petri dish.
Oh, yeah.
World
oh, God. Yeah. Right. I mean, just like the fact that we're using the same spoon. You know what I mean? Like, so much stuff is in there. So I felt like the fact that I didn't get anything, I owed it to life. I'm like, okay, I'm sick of... I don't want to be here and take up space. I want to be here and be of service to other people. And if I can't do that, then just kill me. So I spent 6 months inpatient, and then I spent 6 months in a sober living, and I put myself through broadcasting school.
Okay, where?
So yeah, at College of, not San Mateo. Yes, College of San Mateo.
College of San Mateo.
San Mateo.
CSM. Yes.
And
good school, great radio station.
Yes, yeah, because I love jazz. Love Bay Area's jazz station. That was my first gig.
Awesome.
So yeah, I started, I learned to edit, learned to cut and splice tape, which PS is something I have never done in my 20 years in radio, ever.
Actual tape?
Ever. Yeah.
Back in the day?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
real. I can do that if someone needs it done. But who needs that?
Can I ask real quick,
sure.
What was, how did you decide on broadcasting?
Because radio. I was like, who am I? What do I do? I'm a DJ. I love music, and I'm a talker, and I can do radio commercials. And I have this really eclectic, crazy taste in music. I didn't know till later that that's not what radio is. It's a corporate playlist, but...
It doesn't matter. It
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I immediately started working on the radio station. And then I loved my gig. I worked overnights, like it was very hard, but I loved it. It was so much fun, and I loved the music. And one day the program director was like, look, Dayna, I love you, and I know you want a career in radio, but I'm just going to be honest with you, your voice is not jazz. I'm like, but, and she's like, your voice is active rock. And I'm like, but I don't know one fucking Godsmack song. Like, what does this mean? I have to go play AC/DC? Like, what does that mean? And
you never thought, did I do too little heroin or too much?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what did that? Like, I know, right? So I went and I sent my demo of my, of me being a DJ on that station, as well as my commercial voiceover demo to Clear Channel. So it was KFOX, KSJO, and Channel 104.9. I don't know how they're the ones who got my demo first, but they did. And so KSJO was like a 30-year-old Bay Area radio station before they killed it. And Channel 104.9 was an alternative station. And KFOX was the classic rock station. So I started out as an overnight board op. And then I was doing programming and imaging and board opping, and I was on KFOX. I would co-produce the Greg Kinn show and be on there with him sometimes. I had my own show on Channel 104.9 on the alt station, and I did an afternoon show with Zach Tyler, who's now Afternoons on the Bone here in San Francisco.
And your DJ name was always just Dayna
always
Keys.
Dayna.
Or just Dayna?
I've never said Dayna Keys.
Just Dayna.
I don't think. No, I said Dayna Keys on the jazz station.
Oh, right. Oh.
I'm Dayna Keys. Right, but yeah, like everybody else was just Dayna.
Also, thank you for situating us when you were talking at these stations by their call letters, because we all know they have changed so much over even just the last 5 years.
Exactly. Like KSJ was 92.3. I think that's now La Raza or something. I think, and then Channel 104.9 was Channel 104.9, and KFOX was 98.5, and they still are.
Okay. But not just the call letters, but also formatting and.
Oh yes, yeah. So I mean,
everything's changed.
Yes, I know, but
and
it was
died.
great.
And or died.
Exactly. Or
pulled out.
Or, yeah, totally. Either it's fuzz or completely different format.
So you took to the.
I loved it. I loved it.
The not jazz world.
My life was so good. I had about 3 years clean and sober. I was living my best life. I was very much in recovery. And so I started dating a guy from a band. It was one of the artists that we were playing on Channel 104.9. But so we started dating. I kind of quit going to meetings, got out of my recovery scene, and then I had a minor surgery and was given, I guess they maybe gave me fentanyl before they put me, or something when they put me to sleep. But as I was leaving, they were like, let's just give you the rest of this fentanyl. What am I saying? No? Yeah, now I would. Now I would. Right. If only I could go back.
Yeah.
So basically what happened was there was this beast that had been asleep for 3 years that woke up and went, oh, hi, hello, yeah. And I was like, oh, my God, I have to go back to not feeling this.
It's like a new flavor of candy, right?
Well, no, it's the same. It's very heroin-esque,
okay.
If that's a word.
It is now.
Yeah, it is. It's heroin-y. And then they also gave me Vicodin, which was stupid. I'm like, dude, when you're a heroin addict, you're going to use Vicodin. Like, it literally would do nothing to me. But I didn't throw it away. I put it in the back of my medicine cabinet. Maybe I'm going to have a bad cramp one day, or the pain of life. And so I didn't get rid of it. I lost all of my sense of recovery. I quit going to meetings. And then my dad died. And this was very sudden. He had polio when he was 4. And no one knew this until like a year after he died. No one who has that kind of polio lives to be 60.
Okay.
So he was 54.
He died
or 55.
Of polio?
He died because his organs just started shutting down. He would get walking pneumonia every month.
Yikes.
And they couldn't figure out what was wrong. Like his epiglottis wasn't functioning. And he had to get a trach. And he was just like everything just started to shut down. And it was just really sad and it was really sudden. And at that moment, I remember feeling like, okay, that deal I made with the universe, they just broke it. It's been broken, so fuck it. And I remember looking at everyone toasting to my dad died sober, which is the irony and the sad part. And everybody, the night that he died, was toasting to his life. And I looked at my boyfriend at the time and I went, you go to the bar, you get me a double dirty martini, you put it by the girls' room and leave it there. And he was like, oh, that's okay, right? Because you were just a heroin addict. I'm like, oh, yeah, it's totally fine. Totally fine. It's even in the book. It's written everywhere. It's in the Bible that's a thing. Totally. Just go get it. Right. He was great codependent. So I went down to, that was it. And I was off to the races. And I literally, but I was able to, for the first couple years, if you didn't know me, you wouldn't know. But if you knew me, you'd be like, what are you doing? Specifically, why are you drunk right now? Like, you know? And so I ended up getting poached. I sent my stuff I wanted to work at Live 105, or I wanted to work at K-Rock, honestly. Like, I sent my stuff to K-Rock in LA. He sent my stuff to Sean Demery, again, rest in peace, who's the program director here at Live 105. And he and John Peake, who was the program director at Alice, called me in. And they were like, okay, you can do, Sean Demery was like, you can do a little, you can do a music shift on my station, but the thing is, my friend John here wants you to do an afternoon talk show. And I'm like, yes, because that's when I do best, is when I'm talking to other people and how fun. And even though, like, I hated their music, I was like, yeah, cool. So they brought me in to do that, but they could never find my partner. They tried out people, and, like, it wasn't working.
There's always the Dayna and...
and then the program director was like, I don't want you to get cold feet, and I want you to know this is going to happen. So can I just bring you in right now and give you a full-time, music shift? So I was the night jock from 7 to midnight, Monday through Friday. And I was like, okay. And he got fired, and then there went that whole thing. Oh. Now I'm stuck at nights. So we got a new program director. She gave me a contract, which was great. I was union. I was a union radio jock with a contract. What am I getting? I can't complain. You can complain about Maroon 5, actually, is the thing. You can. But, I wasn't. So when they called that night, No Name came and met us because he was on board with this whole talk show thing, and him and Maddie and the guy Maddie Stout, and then the guy called Whipping Boy, who we thought was going to be my partner, but they ended up not being able to insure him because Howard Stern publicly fired him in New York. So him and producer Shar, and that's where I met her. We all hung out one night. We're drinking at the Crowbar. Again, rest in peace. Yeah. God, I lost so many brain cells there. I love that place. And then I ended up at Alice for about 5 years, I think. Maybe 6. No, 5 years.
Still drinking and using?
Well, I hadn't started using yet.
Oh, okay.
I was just drinking.
Okay.
And then being 7 to midnight live is depressing. My boyfriend was in a band. He would travel. I'd be alone. It was real, and alone at a time when nobody's awake. But I got to be up when I go to work. I can't get up at 6 a.m. I'll be dead at 10. So I was drinking heavier and heavier, and then I acquired a stalker who was a 62-year-old retired police officer from Oakland who thought I was talking to him through music.
Oh, boy.
It was heavy because my boundaries are bad. I sensed a sadness in him and just wasn't able to go, don't you ever call me, and hang up. Right. It's hard for me to be mean to people. Like, I don't like to hurt people's feelings.
Right.
And I felt bad for him. But then it got to the point where he was calling the station 24 hours a day and telling whoever was on air that they needed to give the angel a message. I'm the angel a message. And then he would say things like, you're an angel and you belong in heaven.
Oh, my.
Yeah, I know.
Jesus.
I know. And then scary things like sending me baby clothes.
Oh.
And then showing up at events and looking for me and, being very aggressive with the other DJs and the staff, which scared, everybody was so scared. So my work ended up making me file a restraining order, which I didn't want to do. So I'm walking along with this like Beowulf-sized restraining order book. Just a nightmare. I wasn't even, like, I was drinking but not doing drugs because I was emaciated because my nerves. I was like just such a nervous wreck because everywhere I went, I was afraid to talk because he knew what I looked like and he could hear me and know my voice.
And you didn't know what he looked like at all. Yeah. So you had that, and you had your how recent, or how long after your dad passed away was this? About
a year.
So
2 years,
not long.
Yeah. I lost my cat. Just everything
grieving?
fell apart. Oh God, yeah. But I never grieved properly. I never dealt with it. I started drinking.
Is there a proper?
Well, there's an improper way,
There's
and that's what I did.
There's unhealthy.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're sober, do not start drinking to grieve. Let me just tell you.
Right.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
So hard to come back, and it makes the whole thing last longer.
Right.
And it's harder. Then one night I went out, and it was yacht rock night. And I'm like, this is a thing? People do this, is so funny. I can go listen to my dad. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
This is so funny. And I went to the bathroom one night, and my friend had told, like, this guy bumped into me and spilled my drink, and I was so mad. And my friend who was with me goes, look at his shirt to add insult to injury. I could talk for a living. He's wearing a Doobies, and it was a Doobies 77 shirt. So I was like, ugh. So I went to the bathroom. By the time I came out, the guy was waiting for me, like, so, and there was a table full of drinks and a little thing of Coke. And I was like, oh, hey, I like free stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Hey, old friend.
And it was off and running.
Okay.
And it got to the point where I was having to do that every day in order to function, because that's how I am. And that's the lesson that I keep, for some reason in my life, have gone back and forth, and I keep testing. It's like this fire pit that I keep sticking my hand in to see if it still hurts. It's like, it does, and it gets worse. It gets so much worse with age. So I was doing all sorts of, pills and drugs, taking pills to calm down, taking Coke to wake up, and, drinking. And
Were you still with the drummer guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was so depressed. And then after a certain point, we got this boss. He was a lower boss. He wasn't like the boss or the program director, who absolutely hated me. And I can understand why, because I wasn't a great person to be, as an employee. But I'm also still a good person. And I was a cracked, broken, open person. And he kind of tortured me. Like, would sit at work till 1 a.m. when I was there working, just watching me. Would call me on the hotline when he was out with our boss talking badly about me. Would leave emails open on the desktop about replacing me.
Right.
And I had to live with it.
Yeah.
And it sucked, and I was miserable. And I was drinking myself to death at that point. I ended up getting fired.
And I say he was probably trying to drive you out.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, but you're like, fuck this guy.
Yeah, exactly. So then I'm at home, I brought all my stuff back, and I was like, okay, this is it. I'm throwing in the towel, the life towel. Mm-hmm. So for the next, year, I think my boyfriend only stayed with me for a year, because he wasn't in it for that. You know what I mean? And I get it. As much as I resent him, because he also broke up with me in a text.
Oh,
I would have murdered him if he hadn't. But I mean, he broke up with me in a text after, almost 6 years. And I was just devastated. And at that point, I was like, okay, this is just I'm throwing in the towel. I want to die. And they were doing welfare checks on me constantly. So I'm always having the cops at my house, and I'm just sitting there going, no, I'm not going to kill myself. And in my mind wanting to go, and you're not going to know when I am.
Like, just to get rid of them
idiot.
kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I'm just like, I'm not driving. So what do you want from me? I'm just a miserable, drunk asshole. And they ended up throwing me in rehab. It was, I believe, my 15th. Mm-hmm. And that was the last one.
And when was that?
That was 2010.
10, okay.
And it was only 28 days. They had nothing to teach me. They told me I was going there to detox, because I'm like, I do not need another rehab. Like, right. I could teach, oh my God, are you kidding? Right. So I just used it to dry out. I needed to dry out. I was swollen and awful. And as much as I thought I was an alcoholic, boy, did I become Janis Joplin. You know what I mean? Like, wow. Right. So I was just swollen and bloated and miserable, and I needed to detox, and I hadn't been sober in years at that point. So I dried out, and then, I came back to the pain of life. And I just didn't want to live, really, because I was so depressed. So I started slightly getting back into this stuff. But I'm like, I just won't, because at that point I was drinking a gallon, and that was how much I drank a day. It was the handle. And at the end, I was done with the handle before the next 24 hours were up. So at 6 a.m. when I would go to Safeway every day, I was sweating, to get it. Mm-hmm. And so at that point, I just was like, okay, forget this. This is terrible. I met a guy. We were kind of seeing each other, but we were both unemployed and in a bad way, and we were drinking, partying. And then he was like, okay, I don't want to live like this anymore. And I was like, what? Why? Now I have a partner. Right. But this is all I want. So I knew I wanted to not live, and I spent 2 weeks writing goodbye letters, suicide letters, basically, to anyone I knew. Like, if somebody knows me, they had a letter. Even if they're like, why would she write one to me? I just wanted to let everybody know there's nothing they could have done. I just wanted to absolve everyone of any guilt they might have and let them know that I just really didn't want to be here, and I felt like I didn't deserve to be here, that I was taking up space, that all I did was make my family miserable, and I'm just awful.
Not a suicide note, but notes.
Multiple.
Personalized,
yes.
Okay.
Because I don't want to be impersonal, like I was going to make it better. Somehow in my mind that made it more okay.
You're being considerate on
your
way out.
Yes, exactly, on the way out. And so it took me about 15 minutes. It had been, at that point, 11 years since I'd done heroin. And I went down to the Mission. I got some. I got the rigs. I got everything. I went back home. All of this was done in like 15 minutes.
And you're by yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, it's just ingrained in me. That whole street behavior, the mentality, everything is ingrained in me. I know how to walk and talk when I'm out there. Like, I'm a different person. And I got home, and it's like I didn't take into consideration that even though I hadn't done heroin in 11 years, that I had been doing tons of morphine pills and tons of drugs. So it didn't work. It didn't work. I didn't die, and I got that feeling again. So I used for 6 months until I was like, I remember that I can't do this. Come on. So then I got on methadone, turned me into a zombie. I was just like this person at the methadone clinic, still drinking and smoking crack. It was like, who was I? And then finally, I got on Suboxone. And I'm in a relationship with this guy at this point. So I got on Suboxone, which is like similar. It's not similar to methadone, but it's an opiate blocker.
It's another, right.
Yeah, it's something like that that keeps you from having withdrawals. And I was on that for like a few years. So all of a sudden, one day, this is how it ended, is I drove my boyfriend's car to Oakland, where my crack dealer was. And I got myself, like I don't know how, like 25 ounces of vodka. I don't know, how big is that? It was 750 milliliters. Oh, yes. Okay, there you go, a liter. So I got myself a liter of vodka, like I did. I didn't mix it at the end at all. I was just drinking, and I mean bottom shelf shit. Like, it was not fun. Like peach flavored. I don't remember who made that, but Smirnoff, I think it was. But by the very end, it was Taka and Railgate and whatever's literally on the shelf next to the floor. $6 for a gallon. That's what I was doing. I showed up in Oakland drunk, and I went, I can't do this. Like, I felt like my dad was trying to talk to me and going, you know what to do. What are you doing? And I felt like I couldn't drown his voice out anymore. And I went to a payphone. And I ended up calling the cops on myself. And I said, if somebody doesn't come help me, I'm going to die. And they came and got me, and I was in the car with the motor running. And I don't know how I didn't get arrested, because there's the vodka. My shoes are off. And they put down the window, and they said, do you want help? And it's maybe because of the way I answered. I went, yes, I need help. And then they took me to a hospital in Oakland where they detoxed me for like 12 hours, pumped me full of fluids. They were like, you've got liver damage. You need help. And I'm like, I am. I just got to get home, and deal with this. But what I really needed was for my boyfriend to kick me out of the house. Because after that, on my way home, I stopped and got some crack and a bottle. And then finally, when I got back home, he kicked me out. And I finally went to this hospital, and I guess that was my last attempt. So that was my hospital in San Jose. I went to Good Samaritan. I met a doctor who had 32 years sober, and he's an addiction specialist. Oh, wow. And I detoxed there for a week. And when I got out, I was waiting on my mom to pick me up, and I drank. And the reason I'd like to tell people that is because without a program of recovery, I'm going to drink. Like, if I'm not working my steps, if I'm not doing all the steps and helping others and doing everything you're supposed to do with recovery, then I'm going to drink. So it wasn't
the steps that you earlier had.
Yeah, the steps that I had no interest in. I came back with my tail between my legs, and I was like, I will do whatever want me to.
Your addict ancestors knew something.
Yes.
Right.
All my alcoholic addict ancestors, they knew something. All the people with, like my sponsor who has 30 years of sobriety, they must know something, because they look so goddamn happy. And they are happy. They're genuinely happy. They like to make other people happy. And they're not like miserable. Like it says in our literature, we are not a glum lot. And when I was a kid, that's how I was thought. Like, oh, you're in AA, you're going to be miserable. Or, oh, you quit doing the party stuff, you're going to be miserable. But that was no party what I was doing.
Commiseration.
Yes.
Like
yes.
in a group. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
But it's not. It's the opposite. It's pure unbridled joy. So I got sober up there, and then I realized, because I was thinking at the end when I was living in the shooting gallery in the Mission, I was remembering, you know what, if I could come from the type of life I came from to here, and the fact that I'm okay with it, if I live through this, I'm going to share this story with everybody. And I wish that there were cameras following me. And so at about 2 months sober, I started my podcast called Radio Rehab. And that's where I have other addicts and alcoholics on, and we just share our story. And the whole point is to help other people. And my favorite thing is when I get emails from Saudi Arabia, you know, and I see that there's listeners in Saudi Arabia, and get emails from people going, I can't get to meetings. Thank you. Like, thank you for being my meeting today. Or thank you for helping me. Or you just gave me insight into why my son died.
Wow.
Oh, yes. It's like, that's why I do it.
Yeah.
That's why I do it.
When did you start Radio Rehab?
Well, I got sober September 17th, 2015. It's my sobriety date. Oh, actually, I had, and then I think November is when I started Radio Rehab of 2015.
So 4.5 years.
So Radio Rehab is going to be 5 this year.
Awesome. Congratulations. And the whole time has been with producer Shar, correct?
Yeah, the whole time has been with producer Shar.
Yeah. Go-To Productions.
We're like radio, Go-To Productions. We're like radio, I don't know. She's my radio wife in a way. Like, I mean, we like have a radio marriage. Yeah. Basically. But yeah, so when I first started doing it with her, when I was first trying to get sober, and I wanted to show people the struggle, and we were doing it with Breathe Radio. Oh. And of course, you can't struggle if you're struggling, because I'm going to lean into the struggle more than I'm going to lean into showing up to record. Right. So it kind of fell apart. So it wasn't until I was completely, drug and alcohol free that I was able to do Radio Rehab and carry the message. And it's like I interviewed the author and the subject of Beautiful Boy, and I was talking to them about how, like, do you ever feel bad? Because I feel like my podcast makes me almost unemployable. Like, do you suffer any drawback? But the love we get, like, just hearing that you helped somebody, hearing I helped one person is enough to carry me for a year. And during this whole time, I sent my stuff into KFOG and started doing radio again. So I got to do KFOG. I started out doing nights on KFOG and weekends, and then I was doing middays, which is 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. on KFOG. And then they came in and they turned it into a sports station.
And where are you now on the
sports.
Air?
Now I'm on The Bone. You can find me on 107.7 The Bone. I'm on The Bone on weekends, and I'm also their weekday fill-in person when somebody needs me. And I do Monday through Friday middays for a station in Visalia called 99.7 Classic Rock. Okay. But I don't go there or live there. I'm just on air there.
Got it. And I just realized with Radio Rehab, you got your talk show.
Got my talk show. I have my talk show. I'm doing my music talking, and yeah, and I'm doing voiceovers again. Awesome. And yeah, I'm things are really good. It's like, yeah, this is the same amount of, a little bit more, but almost the same amount of sobriety I had when I went out 15 years ago. You know, so it's like. Right. I have to really be on my game now, because I feel thoughts, I don't need to go to a meeting tonight. I get those thoughts all the time, and it's like, that's the disease. Right. Like, there's something in me that wants to kill me.
So where can people find you?
You can find me on iTunes. Yes, iTunes. Radio Rehab with Dayna Keys, Dayna Keyes, on iTunes and Simplecast, wherever you get podcasts. On Instagram and Twitter and all the socials, I'm at Radio Rehab Dayna.
That was Dayna Keys. Join us next week when we'll hear from Balboa Theater owner Adam Bergeron. Music for Storied San Francisco is by Otis McDonald. Film photography is by Michelle Kilfeather. The show is hosted and produced by me, Jeff Hunt. Our website is storiedsf.com, where you can browse more than 100 episodes, check out all of our live events, and visit our store to help support us. Please follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and subscribe to the show on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. If that's Apple Podcasts or iTunes, please do us a favor and rate and review what we do. And if you have any feedback for us or suggested guests, our email is storiedsf@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.